You know what's worse than getting shot at in Afghanistan? Getting your life destroyed by email while you're dodging bullets. My name is Marcus Thompson, Staff Sergeant, 1st Infantry Division. 13 years of marriage, 3 combat tours, and 2 Purple Hearts later, my wife Sarah sent me divorce papers in a PDF attachment while I was on patrol in Helmand Province. The subject line, time to be realistic about us. But here's the thing about military training. It teaches you patience, strategy, and how to turn your enemy's strength against them. Sarah thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She was wrong. And by the time she realized what I was really capable of, it was already too late. If stories like this hit you in the gut like they hit me, smash that like button. Right now, because this one's going to take you on a ride you won't forget. I should have seen it coming. Looking back, all the signs were there like roadside bombs waiting to explode. But when you're focused on staying alive in a war zone, you don't expect a real battle to be happening back home in your own bedroom. Sarah and I met at a Veterans Day parade in Fort Riley, Kansas, back in 2009. I was 28, she was 26, working as a physical therapist at the base hospital. She had this laugh that could light up a room, and this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the world. When she said she understood what military life meant, I believed her. Hell, I wanted to believe her. We got married 18 months later in a small ceremony at the base chapel. Her family came up from Texas, oil money, big house, the kind of people who thought my Army salary was quaint. But Sarah said none of that mattered. She said she wanted adventure, purpose, something bigger than the country club life she'd grown up with. The first few years were good. Really good. We bought our house in Junction City with a VA loan. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. 3 bedrooms, decent yard, quiet street where kids rode bikes and neighbors actually knew each other's names. Sarah decorated it with care, turning our empty rooms into a real home. She hung my military photos in the hallway, set up an office. Space for me, even learned to cook my grandmother's pot roast recipe. But deployments change things. They change you, and they change the people waiting for you. My first tour to Iraq in 2015 was rough. 8 months in Ramadi during some of the heaviest fighting we'd seen. I came back harder, quieter, jumping at loud noises. Sarah was patient. At first, understanding even. She'd wake me up from nightmares without making a big deal about it. Leave the TV on low when I couldn't sleep. The second deployment to Afghanistan in 2017 was worse. I lost 3 guys from my unit, including my best friend Tony Martinez. Sarah tried to be supportive, but I could see the strain in her eyes. She started talking about normal life, civilian jobs, maybe having kids soon. "You've done enough," she'd say. "Other people can take a turn." That's when the little things started changing. Phone calls getting shorter. Her weekend plans becoming vague. New friends I never met. New hobbies I wasn't invited to share. When I suggested couples counseling before my 3rd deployment, she said we were fine, just adjusting to the rhythm of military life. I should have known better. In combat, when something feels wrong, it usually is March 15th, 2023. I remember the date because it was the day my world split in half. I was sitting in the communications tent at Forward Operating Base Shank, checking email after a 12-hour patrol. We'd been tracking Taliban movements in the Logar province for weeks, and everyone was on edge. The Wi-Fi was terrible. Emails taking forever to load. Then I saw it. Sarah's name in my inbox with the subject line, "Time to be realistic about us." At first, I thought maybe it was about care packages or deployment dates. Sarah always handled the logistics of our life while I was away. I clicked on it. "Marcus, I've been thinking about this for months, and I can't pretend anymore. We want different things. We've become different people. I filed for divorce. The papers are attached. I've moved out of the house and taken what I need to. Start over. The joint account has been settled according to what I think is fair. I hope we can handle this like adults. There's someone else, and I'm happy. I hope someday you can be happy too, Sarah." I read it 3 times. Just sitting there in that tent with generators humming and radio chatter in the background, feeling like I'd been hit by an ID but couldn't tell where the shrapnel was. The attachment was 47 pages of legal documents, already filed with the court in Kansas. My signature was required in about 15 places. 13 years. Ended with a PDF and a paragraph. I closed my laptop, walked outside, and threw up behind the sandbags. First time I puked since basic training, and that was from too much running. Not from having my guts torn out. Sergeant Williams found me 20 minutes later, sitting on some supply crates, staring at nothing. "You good, Thompson?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just some news from home." He nodded and walked away. Military guys know when to leave things alone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about our last conversation before deployment. Sarah had driven me to the airport, walked me to security like she always did. But this time, when she hugged me goodbye, it felt different. Final, like she was hugging a stranger she'd never see again. "Stay safe, okay?" she'd said, but her eyes were already somewhere else. I should have known then, but I didn't want to. No, sometimes the truth is so big and ugly that your brain just refuses to accept it. The next morning, I logged into our joint bank account from the base computer. The balance was $127.43. Our savings account, the one with $52,000, we built up over years of careful planning, was completely empty, closed. 12 years of deployment pay, combat bonuses, saved birthday money, Christmas gifts from relatives. Every dollar we'd ever planned to spend on a house renovation or maybe kids someday gone. That's when I called my buddy Jake Peterson, who'd gotten out of the Army 2 years earlier and was working as a private investigator in Kansas City. "Jake," I said when he picked up, "I need help. Sarah cleaned me out and I'm stuck in Afghanistan for 3 more months." "How bad?" he asked. "Everything bad." "I'll make some calls," Jake said. "Don't do anything stupid over there." "We'll figure this out. This is where most guys would lose their minds, start making threats, or do something that ruins their own case. But you know what? Sometimes the best revenge is letting your enemy think they've already won. Jake called me back 2 days later on the secured line. "Brother," he said, "we got problems, but we also got options." Turns out, Sarah hadn't just taken our money and run. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. Jake had done some digging and found out she'd opened her own apartment lease 6 months before filing for divorce. New car loan in her name only, new credit cards, even a new gym membership across town, nowhere near our house. "But here's the interesting part," Jake said. "The guy she's with, his name is Kevin Marshall. I ran a background check. He's got a history. Kevin Marshall, 35 years old, worked in real estate development. Clean record, good credit, successful. Business. But he'd been married twice before, both times to women whose husbands were deployed overseas. Both previous wives had ended up divorced with their ex-husbands getting terrible settlement deals. This guy's got a pattern," Jake explained. "He targets military wives, swoops in while the husband's away, helps them hide assets, then moves. On to the next one. Your Sarah isn't his first rodeo. I felt sick all over again, but for a different reason this time. This wasn't just about Sarah being unhappy or falling out of love. This was calculated, professional. "What's our move?" I asked. "First, we document everything. I'm going to monitor their activities, see what they're really up to. Second, you need to contact JAG, Judge Advocate General, immediately. Military spouses have certain protections under the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act. Third, we're going to let them think they're winning while we build a case." The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Every day, Jake would send me updates. Sarah and Kevin were living together in a fancy apartment downtown. They were driving around in my truck, the one with my name on the title. Sarah had changed her relationship status on Facebook in a relationship. with a guy she supposedly just met, but the worst part was the photos. Jake had tracked their social media, and they were posting pictures of themselves at restaurants I couldn't afford, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly base pay, living it up while I was eating Moraes and getting shot at. One photo showed Kevin wearing my Kansas City Chiefs jersey, the one Sarah bought me for our 10th wedding anniversary. Another showed them at the lake house where Sarah and I used to go for weekends. Kevin's arm around her waist like he owned her. I had to put my phone down and go hit the punching bag in the base gym until my knuckles bled dot, but then Jake called with something that changed everything. Marcus, you need to hear this. I've been watching their financial activity, and something doesn't add up. They're spending way more money than what they took from your accounts. Like way more. Kevin's buying Sarah expensive jewelry. They're talking about buying a house together, going on vacation to Europe. So where's the extra money coming from? Kevin's business is legitimate, but it's not making enough to support this lifestyle. And Sarah's physical therapy job sure isn't paying for $1,000 dinners. Jake paused. I think they're running some kind of scam. And I think you might not be their only victim. That night I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't because I was heartbroken. It was because I was starting to see the bigger picture. This wasn't just about my marriage falling apart. This was about something much larger, much more dangerous. And if I played this right, I might not just get my life back. I might save other military families from getting destroyed the same way. Jake called me a week later with news that made my blood run cold. I found 2 other cases, he said. Staff Sergeant Brian Collins, deployed to Kuwait in 2021. His wife Lisa drained their accounts and filed for divorce while he was overseas. Guess who she was dating? Kevin Marshall. And before that, Sergeant First Class David Rodriguez, deployed to Syria in 2020. Same story, same pattern. Kevin swoops in, wife files for divorce, husband gets cleaned out. Jesus, I said. How many others? I'm still digging, but I found something else. All 3 wives, including Sarah, used the same divorce attorney. Guy named Richard Hendricks operates out of Kansas City. Specializes in military divorces. His website literally advertises maximum asset recovery for military spouses. This was bigger than I thought. This wasn't just some guy who happened to like dating military wives. This was an organized operation designed to target deployed servicemen when they were most vulnerable. I contacted Collins and Rodriguez, Jake continued. Both guys got terrible settlements. Collins lost his house, his truck, even had to split his military pension. Rodriguez got stuck paying alimony for 5 years to a woman who'd been cheating on him. And in both cases, the wives and Kevin disappeared after the divorce was final. I was quiet for a long time, processing this. Jake, if this is what I think it is. Yeah, it's a conspiracy to defraud military personnel, which makes it a federal crime. That night, I did something I hadn't done since my first deployment. I prayed, not for myself, but for all the other guys who've been through this. All the soldiers who come home from war to find their lives destroyed by people they trusted. The next morning, I contacted Major Jennifer Walsh from the JAG office. I told her everything. The divorce, the missing money, Jake's investigation. The pattern of targeting military families. Major Walsh was quiet for a long time after I finished talking. Then she said, Sergeant Thompson, what you're describing could constitute wire fraud, conspiracy, and violation of the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act. If this is an organized operation, it falls under federal jurisdiction. What does that mean? It means we're going to contact the FBI. 3 days later, Special Agent Maria Santos from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division called me on the secured line. Sergeant Thompson, we've been looking into similar cases across multiple states. Your information could be the key to bringing down a larger network. Turns out, the FBI had been tracking suspicious patterns in military divorces for months. Wives Suddenly filing for divorce while husbands were deployed, unusual financial activity, the same lawyers and real estate agents appearing in multiple cases. But they hadn't been able to connect the dots until Jake started digging into Kevin Marshall's background. "We need you to continue your deployment normally," Agent Santos said. "Don't contact your wife. Don't confront Marshall. Don't do anything that might tip them off. We're going to build a case, but we need time." "How much time?" "Your deployment ends in 6 weeks. We'll be ready by then." Those 6 weeks crawled by like years. Every day, Jake would send me updates on what Sarah and Kevin were doing. They moved into a bigger apartment. Kevin had bought Sarah a new car, a BMW, paid for with cash. They were talking about getting married as soon as my divorce was final, but they were also getting sloppy. Jake had documented meetings between Kevin, the divorce lawyer Hendricks, and a real estate agent named Patricia Quinn. Bank records showed suspicious transfers between accounts. They were setting up what looked like another operation, targeting a Navy wife whose husband was deployed to Japan. The hardest part was keeping quiet. Every instinct I had as a soldier was telling me to fight back, to confront them, to make them pay immediately. But Agent Santos was right. If I moved too soon, I'd blow the investigation and they just disappear like they had with the other victims. Instead, I focused on my job. I led patrols, trained Afghan forces, kept my guys safe. I didn't tell anyone except my squad leader, Sergeant First Class Mike Chun, and only because he noticed I was distracted. "Thompson, your head's not in the game," he said one day after I nearly walked us into an ambush. "What's going on?" I told him everything. Mike listened without interrupting, then shook his head. "Man, that's fucked up. But you're doing the right thing. These people need to go down, and you're the one who can make it happen." 2 weeks before I was scheduled to come home, Agent Santos called with an update that made my heart race. "We're ready to move," she said. "We've got warrants. FOR Marshall, Hendricks, and 3 others. Financial fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud, and violation of federal laws protecting military personnel. We're going to arrest them next week." "What about Sarah?" Agent Santos paused. "That depends on what we find when we search Marshall's records. If she was just a victim who got manipulated, she might get immunity in exchange for cooperation. If she was an active participant in the conspiracy, she's going to prison." I thought about the woman I married 13 years ago, the one who used to send me care packages and write letters every day during my first deployment. Then I thought about the photos Jake had shown me, Sarah wearing expensive jewelry and laughing while other military families got destroyed. "Do what you have to do," I said, "and sometimes justice moves faster than you expect." I landed at Fort Riley on a Tuesday morning in May, after 14 hours of flying and 6 months of living in hell. But I wasn't going home to an empty house and a broken life like I'd expected. I was going home to watch justice happen. Agent Santos met me at the airport. "Everything's in place," she said as we drove toward town. "We've been monitoring their communications for 2 weeks. Marshall and your wife are planning to get married next month. They've already picked out a house to buy with the money they stole from you and the others." "How many others?" I asked. 7 confirmed victims so far. Total losses of over $400,000. But we think there are more we haven't found yet. We drove to an FBI surveillance van parked 3 blocks from Sarah and Kevin's apartment. Inside, agents were monitoring phone calls, watching live video feeds, coordinating with teams across 3 states. "They're moving today," Agent Santos said, handing me headphones. "Listen to this." Kevin's voice came through the speakers, talking to someone on the phone. "The military guy's coming back next week, so we need to finalize everything now. Sarah's getting cold feet, but I told her it's too late to back out. She's already in it up to her neck." Then Sarah's voice, sounding tired and scared. "Kevin, I don't like this anymore. Marcus was a good man. He didn't deserve what we did to him. Sarah, baby, we've been through this. Military guys are stupid and trusting. They go away for months at a time, leaving everything unprotected. We're just taking advantage of a situation. Besides, what's he going to do? He's got no money, no lawyer, no proof of anything. But what about the others, Brian and David? You said they were just going to be lessons, but we destroyed their lives. And they deserved it for being dumb enough to trust their wives while they were playing soldier overseas. Look, Sarah, you could either be rich and guilty or poor and innocent. Which do you prefer? I took off the headphones. Hearing Sarah's voice after 6 months was hard enough, but hearing her talk about me like I was just another mark in their con game was devastating. Agent Santos looked at me with sympathy. You okay? Yeah, I said. Let's finish this. At 2 p.m., FBI agents simultaneously hit 5 locations: Kevin and Sarah's apartment, Lawyer Hendrick's office, real estate agent Quinn's office, Kevin's business, and a storage unit where they'd been, keeping documents from their previous victims. I watched from the surveillance van as agents led Kevin out of the apartment in handcuffs. He was yelling something about lawyers and constitutional rights. Sarah came out a few minutes later, not in handcuffs, but clearly shaken. She looked around desperately, like she was hoping someone would rescue her. My phone rang. Agent Santos answered it, listened for a moment, then smiled. They found the documents: financial records, victim lists, detailed plans for targeting military families. This goes back 3 years and involves at least 12 victims. But the biggest discovery came from Kevin's computer. A detailed manual he'd written called Military Wife Acquisition and Asset Extraction Protocol. It was a step-by-step guide for identifying vulnerable military wives, building romantic relationships, manipulating them into financial fraud, and then disappearing with the money. The manual included sections like emotional manipulation techniques for isolated military spouses, legal loopholes in military divorce proceedings, and asset hiding strategies for maximum extraction. It was sick, systematic, and completely premeditated. Agent Santos showed me some of the documents they'd recovered. This wasn't just theft, she said. This was organized crime targeting military families specifically because they knew you'd be vulnerable while deployed. 3 hours later, Sarah called me. I was sitting in a hotel room trying to process everything that had happened. The FBI had given me permission to take the call, but they were recording it. Marcus, she said, and I could tell she'd been crying. I fucked up. I fucked up so bad. I didn't say anything. Kevin's been arrested. They're saying I might go to prison. They want me to testify against him. Tell them about the other families. We ... about what happened. What do you want me to say, Sarah? I don't know. That I'm sorry. That I never meant for it to go this far. That I still love you. I was quiet for a long time. Do you know what it's like to get divorce papers by email while you're getting shot at in Afghanistan? Marcus? Do you know what it's like to find out your wife of 13 years has been living with another man in your house, driving your truck, spending your money while you're risking your life for your country? She was crying harder now. I know. It was horrible. No, Sarah, you don't know. You can't know because you're not capable of that kind of loyalty. You're not capable of that kind of sacrifice. Please, Marcus, I'll make it right. I'll pay everything back. I'll testify against Kevin. I'll do whatever you want. I thought about all the anger I carried for 6 months, all the rage and hurt and betrayal. And then I thought about the other military families Kevin had destroyed, the other soldiers who come home to find their lives in ruins. Here's what you're going to do, I said finally. You're going to tell the FBI everything, every detail, every victim, every dollar. You're going to make sure Kevin and his lawyer and everyone else involved in this goes to prison for a long time. And then you're going to disappear from my life forever. And if you do that, I won't press charges against you personally. But Sarah, if you try to run, if you try to protect Kevin, if you do anything except cooperate completely, I will make sure you spend the next 10 years in federal prison. Do you understand me? She was quiet for a long moment. I understand. After I hung up, I sat in that hotel room and cried for the first time since I was 12 years old. Not because I was sad, but because it was finally over. The trials took 8 months. Sarah kept her word and testified against Kevin Marshall, Richard Hendricks, and the entire network. Her testimony helped the FBI identify 14 victims across 6 states. With total losses of over $800,000, Kevin got 15 years in federal prison for conspiracy, wire fraud, and violations of the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act. His lawyer. Hendricks got 12 years. The real estate agent Quinn got 8 years. 3 other conspirators got sentences ranging from 5 to 10 years. Sarah got 2 years probation and had to pay restitution to all the victims. She also had to perform 500 hours of community service, specifically helping military families with financial planning and fraud prevention. During the whole process, I never saw her in person. I testified via video link, gave depositions to prosecutors, provided evidence to investigators. But I never sat in the same room with her again. Couldn't do it. The house sold for $340,000. After paying off the mortgage and legal fees, I had about $190,000 left. Combined with the money Sarah had to pay back in restitution, I was actually in better financial shape than when I deployed. But money wasn't really the point anymore. The point was justice. The point was making sure no other soldier would come home from war to find his life destroyed by people who saw military families as easy targets. 6 months after the last trial ended, I got a letter from Staff Sergeant Brian Collins, one of Kevin's previous victims. "Thanks to your case," he wrote, "I was able to get most of my money back, and my ex-wife had to forfeit her claim to my military pension. More importantly, my daughter now understands that her mom was the one who broke up our family, not me. I never thought I'd get the chance to clear my name." I got similar letters from 3 other victims. David Rodriguez wrote that he'd been able to buy a house for the first time since his divorce. Another soldier, Staff Sergeant Jennifer Park, whose husband had been targeted by a similar scheme, wrote that the publicity from our case had helped. Her recognized the warning signs before they could steal everything. But the letter that meant the most came from someone I'd never met, Captain Lisa Martinez, whose brother Tony had been killed in Afghanistan during my second deployment. "Marcus," she wrote, "Tony used to talk about you in his letters home. He said you were the kind of soldier who always had everyone's back, even when they didn't know they needed protection. When I heard about what you did to bring down those criminals, I thought, that's exactly what Tony would have said. You had the backs of all those military families, even when they didn't know they needed protection. Thank you for being the man my brother knew you were." I read that letter about 50 times. A year after coming home, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I took early retirement from the Army and started a nonprofit organization called Deployed Family Protection. Our mission is simple: educate military families about financial fraud, provide resources for soldiers who've been victimized, and work with law enforcement to identify and prosecute people who target military personnel. Jake Peterson left his PI business to work with me full-time. We've got volunteers in 15 states now, mostly retired military and law enforcement. We've helped identify 12 more fraud cases and prevented probably twice that many from happening. The work isn't glamorous. Mostly it's teaching financial literacy classes on military bases, running background checks on people who date military spouses, and helping guys who've been scammed navigate the legal system. But it matters. Last month, a young soldier from Fort Hood called me. His wife had started acting strange while he was deployed to Poland, and some of her new friends were asking suspicious questions about their finances and his deployment schedule. We investigated, found a pattern similar to Kevin Marshall's operation, and shut it down before they could steal anything. "You saved my marriage," the kid told me. "Maybe my whole life." That's when I know this work is worth it. Is for Sarah. I heard she moved back to Texas, got a job at a veterans hospital, and volunteers with organizations that help military families. I hope that's true. I hope she's found a way to make amends for what she did. I don't hate her anymore. I don't really feel anything about her, which I guess is its own form of peace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something better from the ashes of what someone tried to destroy. 2 years after that email in Afghanistan, I was back where it all started, sort of. Not in a war zone this time, but at Fort Bragg, teaching a class to soldiers about to deploy. Show of hands, I said to the room full of young faces. How many of you have joint bank accounts with your spouses? Almost every hand went up. How many of you have talked to your spouse about what to do if someone approaches them while you're gone? Someone charming, sympathetic, understanding about how hard military life is? Maybe 3 hands stayed up. That's what I thought. Let me tell you a story about why that conversation matters. I told them about Sarah and Kevin, about the emails and the empty bank accounts and the systematic targeting of military families. I told them about the investigation and the trials, and the justice that finally came. But I also told them about the signs I'd missed, the conversations I'd avoided, the trust I'd given without verification. I'm not telling you to be paranoid, I said. I'm not telling you to spy on your spouses or assume everyone's trying to scam you. What I'm telling you is that there are people out there who see military families as opportunities. They know our weaknesses, long deployments, financial stress, emotional isolation. They're counting on us being too proud, too trusting, or too busy to protect ourselves. After the class, a young sergeant named Mike Torres came up to me. Sir, this might sound stupid, but my wife's been talking to some guy online while I've been training for deployment. Says he's just a friend, someone who understands military life. Should I be worried? I thought about it. What's your gut telling you? That something's not right. Then something's probably not right. Want me to make a call? 2 days later, Jake called me back with Torres's background check results. The friend was a 45-year-old man with a history of targeting military wives. No criminal record, but a pattern of relationships with women whose husbands were deployed. We arranged for Torres to have a conversation with his wife before deployment. Turned out, the guy had been slowly building an emotional relationship with her, asking about their finances, their housing situation, their marriage problems. Classic predatory behavior. Torres and his wife worked it out. She cut off contact with the guy. They started marriage counseling, and he deployed with peace of mind. 3 months later, she sent me a thank you card. You probably saved our marriage and our family's future. That's what this work is really about. Last week, I got a call from Agent Santos. Marcus, we've got another case. Similar pattern to Marshall's operation, but bigger. Multiple states, maybe 20 victims. We could use your help. What do you need? Someone who understands how these people think, how they target military families. Someone who's been through it and knows how to build a case that'll stick. I thought about it. Working with the FBI again meant reopening old wounds, diving back into the world of financial fraud and betrayal. It meant more trials, more testimony, more time spent thinking about the worst things people do to each other. But it also meant more families protected, more criminals in prison, more soldiers coming home to intact lives instead of ruins. Send me the files, I said. The new case is bigger than Kevin Marshall's operation. More sophisticated, more victims, more money stolen. But we know how to fight it now. We've got the experience, the resources, and the motivation. And we've got something else. A network of military families who've been through this and survived, who are willing to help other families avoid the same trap. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. 13 years of marriage, gone. Life savings, stolen. Trust, shattered. Future, uncertain. Today, I'm remarried to a woman named Jennifer who works as a counselor for military families. She understands the work I do because she does similar work herself. We've got a house in North Carolina, 2 dogs, and a life built on honesty and shared purpose. More importantly, we've helped protect dozens of military families from the kind of betrayal I experienced. We've put criminals in prison, recovered stolen money, and saved marriages that might otherwise have been destroyed. The funny thing is, I'm grateful for what Sarah and Kevin did to me. Not because I enjoyed it. It was the worst experience of my life. But because it led me to something more important than my individual happiness, the ability to protect other people from the same kind of predators. Sometimes what feels like the end of your story is really just the beginning of something much more important. If you're watching this and you're military, or married to military, or about to deploy, listen to me carefully. Trust is earned, not assumed. Love is proven by actions, not words. And if something feels wrong, it probably is. But here's the more important lesson. When someone betrays you, when they steal from you, when they try to destroy your life while you're serving your country, you have a choice. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it to build something stronger. I chose to build. The Deployed Family Protection nonprofit has now helped over 200 military families. We've identified and helped prosecute 15 major fraud rings. We've recovered over $2 million in stolen assets. We provide financial counseling to thousands of soldiers and their spouses, but the numbers don't tell the whole story. Real story is in the letters I get from soldiers who say we saved their marriages, from spouses who say we helped them recognize predatory behavior, from kids who get to grow up in intact families because we caught the criminals before they could. Destroy Everything. Last month, I spoke at a conference for military family advocates. Afterward, a young woman came up to me, maybe 25 years old, married to a Marine who was deployed to Japan. "Mr. Thompson," she said, "6 months ago, I was ready to file for divorce. I'd met someone who made me feel understood, who said my husband didn't appreciate me, who offered to help me start a new life. But then I watched one of your videos, and I recognized everything you were describing. The guy wasn't trying to save me. He was trying to scam me. Because of what you taught me, I cut off contact with him and worked on my marriage instead. My husband comes home next month, and we're stronger than ever. That's why I do this work. Kevin Marshall is serving 15 years in federal prison. His lawyer is serving 12. The real estate agent who helped them launder money is serving 8. Sarah served her probation and now works helping other military families, which I think is the best possible outcome for everyone involved. The house Sarah and I shared was sold 2 years ago. I drive by sometimes when I'm in the area, and it's been completely renovated by the new owners. New paint, new landscaping, new life. Sometimes the best thing you can do with a place that holds bad memories is let someone else fill it with good ones. As for me, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Jennifer and I are talking about starting a family soon. The nonprofit is growing every year. I sleep well at night knowing that somewhere a soldier is coming home to find his life intact instead of destroyed. And sometimes, late at night when I'm working on a new case or preparing for another presentation, I think about that email I got in Afghanistan, the one that started this whole journey. "Time to be realistic about us," Sarah had written. She was right, just not in the way she thought. It was time to be realistic about us, about who we really were, what we really valued, what we were really capable of. It turns out I was capable of much more than either of us knew. The last thing I want to say is this. If you're going through something similar, if you're a military family that's been targeted by predators, if you're feeling alone and betrayed and like your life the last thing I want to say is this. If you're going through something similar, if you're a military family that's been targeted by predators, if you're feeling alone and betrayed and like your life is over, it's not. You're stronger than you know, and there are people who will help you fight back. Don't suffer in silence. Don't let shame keep you from seeking help. Don't let anyone convince you that you deserve what happened to you. You served your country with honor. You deserve to be treated with honor in return. The website for deployed family protection is in the description below. We've got resources, legal contacts, and a 24-hour hotline staffed by people who've been where you are. You're not alone in this fight. And to the predators who might be watching this, who think military families are easy targets, you're wrong. We're organized now. We're watching. We're ready for you. Try to scam one of our families, and you'll find out exactly what happens when you mess with people who've been trained to fight for what's right. If this story opened your eyes to something you needed to see, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this with any military families in your life. It might be the most important thing you do for them today. And remember, the strongest revenge isn't getting even. It's making sure no one else goes through what you went through. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and never stop fighting for what's yours. This is Marcus Thompson, and I'll see you in the next one.